Hey gang, Dr. Steve here, your Patriot Professor. Today I'm not in the studio. Sometimes it's travel, sometimes it's family, sometimes I need a day to step back, pray, and be human for a minute. But I never want a day to go by where you feel alone in this fight. So my team and I have built a special library of unique episodes, quieter, more reflective conversations, no breaking news, no pressure, just you and me walking through what it actually means to rebuild faith and restore family and reclaim freedom. You're about to see one of them. Treat it like a real walk. Pause it, sometimes hits you if it hits you in a certain place. Think it through, pray over it, and then come into the comments and share what stood out most. Your voice and your story is what makes this more than a video. Thank you, guys. Love you. God bless.
Hey gang, it's me, Dr. Steve, on one of my Turley walks. So glad to have you with me today. It's a lovely day, absolutely beautiful. As many of you know, I'm working on a new book project entitled Civcosm, God's Algorithms and the Rise of a Civilizational Cosmocracy. And what I basically am arguing in that book is that world order is breaking up into three distinct orders. That's one of the reasons why the world seems so crazy right now. There are actually not one, but three great theaters of civilizational competition: theopolitics, technopolitics, and astropolitics. So theopolitics involves how religion is retaking center stage in the competition between nations and civilizations for geopolitical power and influence, just across the physical earth, as it were. But there is a second theater in the cloud, and that's technopolitics. And that involves the competition for dominance over the technologies that are shaping civilization itself. So we're talking about artificial intelligence, quantum computing, cyber and digital technologies. And the idea behind technopolitics is that he who controls AI, quantum computing and the like, in many ways controls the world. So there is a literal AI arms race going on right now as we speak, particularly between the United States and China. It wasn't a coincidence that on his trip to China, Trump actually brought the CEO of NVIDIA, right, Jensen Huang, with him in his meeting with Xi. That was a message, a techno-political message. And then astropolitics is the extension of civilizational competition beyond the planet itself into orbital space, satellites, moon missions, the hopes of terraforming Mars and the broader cosmos. And what astropolitics involves is the competition to control the ultimate high ground, as it were, and who writes the rules of humanity's multi-planetary future. It's absolutely fascinating. We thought Star Wars was just a myth. I think we're in the midst of it right now. And so together, these three great theaters of civilizational competition form a kind of vertical hierarchy. So theopolitics is the competition on the earth. Technopolitics is the competition over the cloud that covers the earth. And then astropolitics is the competition above the earth, right? So these are really the three dimensions in which civilizational order of the 21st century will ultimately be decided. And again, the key is it's not just on Earth, and it's not just in the clouds, it's even in space itself. And so my book is a proposed model for how all three of these orders fuse together into a single system that I'm calling a civilizational cosmocracy, or Civcosm for short. We are living in the midst of a rising Civcosm world. And in our first video on that, I talked about the foundation of theopolitics, which is the demographic revolution that's happening literally all over the world. And the pattern is very simple, and we see it repeated again and again and again. Secular liberals have more or less stopped having kids, all the while religious conservatives are having more kids than ever. Demographers are in wide agreement on this. The religious are indeed inheriting the earth. And so you might want to check out some of those, that earlier video I did on that. And then in our second video, I talked about the rise of or constitutional theocracies, civilization states, how this is actually the number one most popular form of government, that is constitutional theocracies specifically. They're making up about 55% of the world's population. And then when you combine that with civilization states like China and India, secularism is only about 10 to 15% of the world right now.
While Trump unleashes a political reckoning, there is another crisis poisoning every American in some way, shape, or form, even in the comfort of our own homes. I'm talking about the microplastic epidemic. Now, you may have heard about this, but this is pretty shocking stuff. Check this out.
White ones, we've got clear ones.
Tons of microplastics wash ashore all over the world every day. And now for the first time, scientists in the Netherlands have detected microplastic pollution in human blood.
All the microplastics and nanoplastics we are exposed to, we inhale and we ingest, that actually, there's so much plastic that it can even enter our bloodstream.
The Dutch study on blood samples from healthy adults detected tiny plastic particles in 80% of people.
That's right. There's a microplastic crisis poisoning every American in some way, shape, or form. They're in our food, our water, our meats, our proteins. In fact, according to a recent study, we now ingest 6 times more microplastics than in 1990. It's wreaking havoc on our health and on our organ functions. And unfortunately, no one is immune from this. But there is an amazing solution. There's a unique bacterial strain found only in kimchi that's been found to effectively degrade microplastics. In fact, traditional kimchi is one of the world's most powerful superfoods. But let's be honest, it's messy, it's strong smelling, and not exactly easy to eat every single day. So that's why our good friends over at Brightcore created Kimchi One. Now you can get all the benefits of premium fermented kimchi in convenient capsule form. No mess, no taste, no hassle. I've been taking Kimchi One every single day for months now, and gang, I love it. Each capsule delivers over 900 probiotic strains, live enzymes, and antioxidants that help restore balance in your gut. People are seeing improvements in digestion, bloating, regularity, energy, metabolism. Studies show that kimchi even reduces the risk of obesity. Kimchi One is all natural, non-GMO, and 100% made right here in the USA. It's completely dairy-free, gluten-free, soy-free, so just anyone can take it. I personally love it, and I love knowing that I'm supporting my gut and overall health in one simple step. So if you've been looking for a way to boost your immune system and remove microplastic toxins from your body, this is it. You can get 25% off your order by going to the link below, or for an even better deal, give them a call. My friends at Brightcore would love to chat with you, and they're going to give you 50% off plus free shipping. Call them at 888-597-0233. The first 100 callers to order are going to get a free bottle of vitamin D3. Again, you only get that 50% off and free shipping when you give them a call. So once again, that number is 888-597-0233.
In this Turley Walks, I want to turn to the political vehicle carrying these forces forward. And that vehicle has a name, and it's civilizational populism. Now, again, theopolitics is the framework running throughout this entire series here. It's the study of how theological cosmovisions organize political power, determine sovereignty, identity, and the direction of the nations, as it were. The 21st century's deepest conflict is not only between civilizations at their borders, it's also within states over whether they'll be defined by secular liberal universalism or civilizational, religious particularity. So civilizational populism is the outgrowth of this religious demographic where more and more nations are becoming majority religious. And now their sacred identities are about to be inscribed in law. And across the Western world, in particular, they're winning. So in his landmark study on this, Religions and the Global Rise of Civilizational Populism, the scholar Ihsan Ilmaz makes a very important, I think, advance on Sam Huntington's Clash of Civilizations. So Huntington imagined civilizations colliding at their borders, right? The West versus Islam, you know, Russia versus Ukraine, this kind of stuff. It's a clash at the border of one civilization versus another. Yilmaz shows that the primary clash right now is actually not at the borders. The primary civilizational struggle is internal. It's a struggle within each state over whether its identity will be defined by universal liberal secularism or civilizational religious particularity. So take, for example, Erdogan's Turkey. So his party, which is an Islamic nationalist party known as the AKP, they didn't simply introduce religion into public life. They literally replaced the nation as a sovereign unit with what's called the Ummah, the entire global body of Muslims. So Turkey's foreign policy under Erdogan is not conventional national interest calculation. It really is the projection of an Islamic civilizational identity onto the world stage. Look at Narendra Modi's India. So Hindutva, which is basically a Hindu version of Sharia law, it runs the same logic through Hindu grammar. So his party, the Bharatiya Janata Party, the BJP, they're the civilizational carrier. The Muslim in India is the civilizational other, and the Indian state is the guardian of Hindu culture. So this isn't nationalism. It's civilizationalism in religious dress. And the clash that Yilmaz is describing is a battle over what kind of political community a state will actually be, whether defined by, the thin managerial grammar of liberal rights or the thick grammar of ancient sacred civilizationalist identity. Now, consider what's happening right now in the heart of the secular West, in Europe. The continent's supposed to be the most secularized of the earth. Giorgia Meloni, right, Prime Minister of Finland, she ran to with the brothers under the motto, God, homeland, and family. It's getting a little windy here. I don't know if you probably hear it on the microphone. Let me turn around here and hopefully get out of this wind tunnel. Viktor Orban spent 16 years building a Christian democracy in Hungary. And he specifically stated a Christian democracy by definition is not liberal. It is illiberal. It is not secular. It is Christian. And he described Hungary as the last Christian bastion, and he built or restored nearly 4,000 churches in a decade. Or think of Karol Nawrocki of Poland, the president of Poland. In June of 2025, almost a year ago, actually, he spent the day before his inauguration on pilgrimage to Yasna Gora, placing his nation under the protection of the Black Madonna, the icon of the Black Madonna, rather than the Brussels Charter, for example. None of this is symbolic. This is theopolitical declaration about the source of the government's legitimate authority. It is rooted in an ancient, sacred, religion. Geert Wilders led his Freedom Party to become the largest in the Dutch parliament back in 2023, and he campaigned on an explicit platform of defending Judeo-Christian values against what he called the existential civilizational threat of Islamization. Again, this isn't mere nationalism. This is civilizationalism. These aren't fringe movements. They are growing parties and prime ministers articulating a very coherent theopolitical vision that in effect says Western civilization has a sacred foundation and defending it is a political obligation. I have to say, though, of all the arguments I'm hearing coming out of Europe, by far my favorite is the most ironic of them all, and that comes from Marine Le Pen of France, National Rally. She's actually arguing that their national doctrine of laïcité, which is their French secularism, she's arguing that obviously did not descend from nowhere. It is the inheritance of a Christian civilization, which according to French particularity, according to French interpretation, requires a separation between church and state, between public life and private life. That's where laïcité comes from. This is Marine Le Pen. It comes from France's distinctive Christian identity. And without maintaining that distinctive Christian identity, they're going to lose their secular public square. And that's because Islam knows no such distinction, church versus state. So you actually have national leaders invoking Christianity in order to save secularism. I mean, seriously, truth will always be stranger than fiction. So the central question of the 21st century is not which power will dominate. The central question is which cosmovision will prevail. Civilizational populism is the early political expression of that contest within Western democracies. The demand that the civilization state model prevail over liberal universalism, even in the heart of the West. And these movements are winning. They're winning elections because they're articulating something millions upon millions feel, and we're talking, again, billions overall around the world, feel in their bones, that the thin universalism of secular liberalism is not sufficient to sustain a civilization. And that what's being lost is something sacred. So as Yilmaz put it today, we are increasingly finding not conflict between civilizations, but conflict within states over their civilizational identity. And that conflict really is the story of our moment. Thanks for taking a walk with me. Love you.
What you're seeing in the news is just a tiny slice of a much bigger story. In my free mini ebook, I show you how this civilizational crisis is actually a turning point and what it means for your family's future. It's short, it's free, and it will change the way you see what's happening around you. Click the link below, grab the ebook, and start seeing this moment through the eyes of faith, not fear.